welcome to Cage Minds Uncensored. I'm Micah Frankel. First out, on a sad note, offer condolences to the Ojeda family. We had been helping to support Team Mia, her fight against cancer. That's now ended. We offer our condolences to the family. Now we're going to talk about combat sports like we normally do. It's been a crazy week with the UFC. Brock Lesnar's back. We had Pro Fighters League. Ton of stuff going on. Golden Boy going to do pay-per-view with Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell. During International Fight Week, they were actually goaded into a face-off by the media. They're in Las Vegas. I mean, good times. You got Chuck and Tito still hating each other, still trying to make money off of hating each other. Fun having them face off. I don't know if we can really have much more fun further than that. I don't know what it would take to really, for me to have a positive reaction about the pay-per-view, to say I want to purchase that. Right now, not even on the radar. Good luck to Golden Boy with that endeavor. We also got Ronda Rousey, went into the UFC Hall of Fame, and I mean, much deserved. Was a pioneer. The whole reason women are in the octagon is because of Ronda Rousey. Love her or hate her. It was remarkable, the win streak that she went on. The women that she did defeat. The countless armbar victories. She does have her place in the history of women's MMA, in MMA history, in UFC history, rightfully deserved. And it was a beautiful speech by Ronda on Thursday night, I felt. Going to talk about the Pro Fighters League here in just a moment on Thursday night. Talking about that Hall of Fame induction. I feel like we already got the class for 2019, and hopefully the UFC can follow through and live up to the expectation that I have. Michael Bisping has announced his retirement. Rashad Evans has announced his retirement. We're talking about two former world champions, two tough winners. Johnny Hendricks, he held that welterweight title. Josh Koscheck, a tough one alum, a welterweight title challenger. I know he shifted over to Bellator, and I'm pretty sure everybody from Tough One is already in the Hall of Fame, but somehow I think that we need to acknowledge Josh Koscheck and his retirement a little bit more. But yeah, definitely Bisping, Evans, Hendricks, the class of 2019 for the UFC Hall of Fame. That's what I feel should happen. Quick note, coming up tonight, because of probably when I'm getting this posted, Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series is back after a week off. Jordan Espinosa, Latrell Yee MMA, Bavon Lewis, Jackson Wink MMA, both fighting out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, both getting their second opportunities. Hopefully they can both cash them in, turn to UFC contracts. Big expectations for both of them. Interviews with both of them here at CageMinds.com, on Cage Minds MMA Show, the YouTube channel. Check those out. Tough 28 coaches have been announced. It's going to be Robert Whittaker, the middleweight champion, and Kelvin Gastelum. Funny enough, I always believed that Gastelum was the right size, fought better at 185. This is the guy that said he was too small to fight on the upper echelons of the division. He's fought all the way up to now earning a title shot. Obviously going to coach against Whittaker. Could be women's 145s. I've heard heavyweights for men. Be interesting to see what weight class the UFC's went with, because by now, 55 and 70, we've had so many seasons of The Ultimate Fighter in those weight classes, and those weight classes are so deep, we just don't need them anymore. And again, my opinion on Ultimate Fighters, we really don't need it anymore due to the Contender Series having 5 fights a week, and you don't even have enough slots to offer those 5 guys opportunities. If everybody wins, why are you having that many fights then if it's a Contender Series and it's not a legit opportunity for each guy? But you're then, like on Saturday night, or Friday night, for the Ultimate Fighter, you gave away, I believe, 5 more contracts, if not 7, because you had each of the finalists. So the finalist, winner, and the runner-up both normally get contracts, and then you had 3 other fights where guys fought each other. So they just added seven. They just added 7 guys between the lightweight and featherweight divisions from the Ultimate Fighter. I think we can stop messing with 155, 170. Focusing actually on heavyweight or women's 145 would be outstanding. Two of the more shallow, talking about roster-wise, of the weight classes that definitely need additions. But like I said, a lot of stuff to talk about this week. We do have also to talk about the health concerns of Max Holloway. He had to pull out of a fight again. This is the third straight time that Max Holloway has been advertised. And yes, we are counting the Khabib Nurmagomedov, even though the commission pulled him out. And it was a weird circumstance in New York. But this is the third time that overall missed the fight against Frankie Edgar, missed the fight against Khabib, now has to pull out against Brian Ortega. The weight cuts, it's now becoming an issue with Max Holloway. Talked about him being 170 pounds. Probably 155 would be best. Heard walking around possibly north of 175, or 170 actually. 155 would be the best. If not, possibly another guy that would need to fight at 165. Yes, a possibility of our 145 champion needing to fight at 165, because what's healthy for him? He's having these issues getting down in weight, and they're saying it's down in weight because you don't want to say it's the brain. You don't want to say that are these signs of being punch drunk, concussed. Those would be the worst options, the worst possibilities for Max Holloway, a possible superstar who, if he is damaged in that fashion, it would be the end of his career. And then a lot of huge questions get raised for the UFC. You have the NFL in the same paramount, but they've avoided a star player at their peak, calling them out on concussions. This would be that detrimental. This would be that turning point if it was neurological, what's happening to Max Holloway. We saw that the interview on UFC Tonight with Kenny Florian and Michael Bisping, it was not good. It did not look good. There was a lot of bad signs, and the UFC did what they had to do, pulling Max Holloway from the event. But when you see a guy that's that young showing some of those signs, it leads towards what's the life expectancy of the sport when we're starting to learn what we are about concussions, about CTE, and also the necessity to get rid of weight cutting. Because the more hydrated the fighter is, the more fluid there is around your brain, that would alleviate some of the concussiveness more naturally than any other method, having the fighter, fully hydrated. So Max Holloway, a lot of this is a giant wait and see game, but at least in the thought of fighter safety, the commission, the UFC, whatnot, Max Holloway's team, the right action was taken before UFC 226, and he was pulled from the fight. No, we're all bummed out about it, disappointed. I am too. Really want to see that Ortega fight. But on the side of fighter safety, this was the right call from all parties involved. Action that did take place this weekend, you did have the Pro Fighters League. They were on the other side of the country in Washington, D.C. Now, Washington, D.C., 4th of July week, it sounds like a great marketing idea. It sounds like a great strategy. But the only problem is that it's the same week as International Fight Week. Pro Fighters League having their third event on a Thursday night, the same night as the UFC Hall of Fame induction ceremony, on a national media kind of coverage deal. This had to have hurt the event. Pretty sure if you weren't directly involved with the event, Las Vegas was where you were. Las Vegas is where the MMA world was focused this past week. So that could have been a little detrimental to the Pro Fighters League. But some people took advantage of it. I mean, you got Lewis Taylor, big hooks, a third round finish, leaping in left hook, taking out Anderson Colaveras, the Brazilian. That was a great finish. You had Yao Zeffirino just lighting up Paul Bradley with hooks, feinted the jab, came over the top with the right, a flurry to finish, a standing KO. I mean, one of the more devastating kind of standing KOs you've seen in MMA, with the ref having to jump in and Bradley holding himself up against the fence. Both guys getting big points in this point system. We're going to go over that in a minute, where the standings are for the middleweights and welterweights that were in action at the Pro Fighters League 3. Rex Harris, Andre Lobato, the Steve Harvey MMA moment of the year. Yeah, we had that. Your winner by split decision, Andre Lobato. And Will Bosrutin is interviewing Lobato. They're being alerted that there was a miscalculation. And we turn, and actually, real quick, Joe Martinez flips that. Your winner by split decision, Rex Harris. A split decision. You know both guys feel good about it, but only one guy in the Pro Fighters League is going to get the points. John Howard, one of the more recognizable names that they have on the middleweight side of the bracket, came through with some great striking, turned it into takedowns, and beats up Gashma Yuditov following a scramble, taking the back and getting the rear naked choke. So seeing the full range of skills that John Howard offers and getting a submission victory. The co-main event, you saw a knockout finish where Pavel Kush was able to time Akhmed Nurmagomedov's entrances. He kept doing the same thing with leg kicks and ended up eating a jab on the chin, hitting the ground, and getting submitted. Kush actually has never seen a finish or never seen a decision. All of his wins have came by the finish, picking up big points there. And in the main event, Ray Cooper III gets revenge for his father, hurting Jake Shields in the clinch. Shields going to his back and never able to actually get the grappling started. Cooper would land, ground, and pound, would get up, would pressure, stuff the shots, busted up Shields around the the left eye, kept cracking with the left hook, put Shields on his back, and finished him off. Jake Shields, who you would assume was one of the favorites at 185 pounds, one of the bigger names, one of the more veteran fighters in this tournament, looking for $1 million, comes out on the wrong end in the main event, getting dominated by the younger, more powerful striker, Ray Cooper. So Cooper actually gets 5 points for that second round finish. The welterweights, Yao Zeffirino, Makhmed, Kirimov, both with 6 points. Pavel Kush got 5. Ray Cooper gets 5. And Rick Story, along with Bogoran Velicic, both pick up 3. In the middleweights, you have Abes Makhmedov picking up 6. Howard picks up 5. Lewis Taylor 4. Shamil Gazmatov 3. Bruno Santos 3. And Rex Harris 3 with that controversial split decision win. Everybody is at 0. So give it 4 weeks, and the middleweight welterweights will be back in action here in 2 weeks. The next event, you'll once again be seeing the heavyweights and the lightweights. So that's the Pro Fighters League, where I'm still interested to see the guys that got finished, the guys that get knocked out. Is that just it? Are you just done for the season? Where the points play out, what they're going to do for tiebreakers, because there's still the possibility of those happening. But the Pro Fighters League, at least it's not a popularity contest that they're turning into some kind of pro wrestling match. We'll talk about that more here in a moment. So that was Thursday night. Friday, you had the Ultimate Fighter finale, the Undefeateds. You had a 145 and a 155 champion going to be crowned. Like I said, we've seen a lot of 155 champions crowned from the Ultimate Fighter. Gerald Mershaw picks up one of the early submissions. Oscar Piocha was landing heavy strikes, almost had the rear naked choke in the first round, but GM3 came back with big hooks, taking the fight to the ground and getting the rear naked choke, forcing the tap. You had Steven Peterson and Matt Bessette in what was, I thought, a front runner for fight of the night, a back and forth, hard fought battle that went to the split decision. Bissett was the more clean striker, but the judges end up favoring the takedowns in round 2 and 3 of Steven Peterson, getting his hand raised. John Gunther grinds out a win. Luis Pena, as many people expected, Violent Bob Ross to have the biggest potential, the highest ceiling of anyone on the show. He looked to have it. A great mounted rear naked or a mounted guillotine finish of Richie Smolin in the first round. Showed off that striking, got on top, and got the finish. Roxanne Modafferi able to counter the takedown attempt of Barb Honchak, land on top, ground and pound with some nasty elbows for the second round finish. They're now 1-1 against each other. Modafferi avenging her loss in Invicta. A strong jab and a great first and second round help Alex Caceres pick up a split decision win over Martin Bravo. Bravo, after winning Tough Latino, has had a tough pair of outings against UFC competition. Brad Katona could be a contender and make some impact at 145, becoming the Tough finale winner. Showed his grappling, showed off his striking, was very technical in the decision win over Jay Cuccinello. Mike Trezano just wanted it more, was more active. Joe Giannetti, with a pretty lackluster third round, gave the fight away in a decision win for Trezano, becoming a lightweight Tough winner. Now you enter the Shark Tank, 155 pounds, so deep, so many killers. Israel Adesanya, you want a prospect, they want future stars. This guy, he has originality, he has his own kind of flavor. He is himself. Adesanya used his jab, his left kick to the legs and to the body to outnumber 8-ranked former Tough alum Brad Tavares in the first round. Tavares, a lot of double jabs, overhands from both sides, inside leg kicks, but not a lot of long combinations. To be effective against Adesanya, you got to cut off angles, you got to stop him in the middle of what he's doing. Adesanya was allowed to stick away with his jab, land big kicks, hit every level of the body. I'm talking about hitting the calf to the inside part of the leg, going to the body, all the way upstairs. The knees were stopping Tavares from wanting to get into the clinch because he was getting hit. The elbows just razor sharp, getting caught, cutting Tavares open on the area below his eyebrow, but above his eyelid on his right eye. Solid takedown defense. Israel Adesanya handles the number 8 ranked Tavares in quite the fashion, walking away pretty unscathed. Tavares, not enough diversity, not enough tricks, not enough setup, wasn't able to make it a brawl, didn't want to stay in the inside. They would each throw a couple shots, spread away. Tavares played Adesanya's game. Adesanya with the better striker at this game, the better chess player. Tavares, you thought, could have put together a better game plan and just did more. That was not the case. Adesanya, after that, called out to fight Uriah Hall, Paulo Acosta winner at UFC 226. We'll talk about that here coming up. So Adesanya, still undefeated. And like we said, he just took down the number 8 ranked guy in the UFC's rankings. And this is a 3-0 start to his UFC career. Go over to UFC 226 on Saturday night. Dan Hooker makes it look easy, taking out Gilbert Burns. It was a right hook early that scores the knockdown in the first round. Body head with the left hook in the second puts the lights out. It was punches versus kicks. Burns was trying to work the legs and take them away. Hooker was countering beautifully and quickly gets the finish. Curtis Millender, after getting put on his back in the first round, powers through in the second with his vicious striking, the leg kicks, and meeting the Max Griffin aggression with knees. Curtis Millender, 2-0 in the octagon. The card close. More activity, more aggression, able to eat the shots that Venata lands. The card close beats Lana Venata by unanimous decision. The forgotten man in the UFC's bantamweight division, one of definitely guys I'd put on the most disrespected list. Rafael Assunção defeats Rob Font by unanimous decision. Showed off his grappling in the second and third rounds, power striking, and more activity in the first round, not allowing Font to get comfortable. Paulo Acosta, I think it was like 3, 4, maybe 5 low blows and all, a couple eye pokes, but is able to finish Uriah Hall in the second. Uriah Hall looked fast, looked active, was popping off a great jab, but didn't have much follow-up in the first round. Acosta was finally able to cut off the cage, stop Hall, started landing some big shots, and then started being the bully, backing Hall up into the cage, winging away with body shots, a couple of them going low into the second round, where a stiff jab really started it off to get Hall hurt, where he wasn't moving as well. Costa's able to get them into that brawling range, exchanging range, and the left hook hurts Hall. A right hand follows up, and then right hand to the body puts him going down to the floor. The ref has to jump in. Costa doesn't know who Israel Adesanya is. He has called out Chris Weidman. Dana White in post-fight asked about it. Somehow, even though you had Hall at 9, Costa at 10, Tavares at 8, it had never crossed Dana White's mind for the two winners to cross each other's path. He doesn't think they should fight each other right now. I think we should. I think we should see that one. Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. But that's not in the UFC plan, so who knows if we'll see it or not. You have to respect your opponent at all times in MMA, and Gokhan Saki learned that. Did not respect the striking of Khalil Roundtree and suffers his first MMA defeat. Roundtree with the knockout 96 seconds into the first round. A clean 1-2, the second part landing and turning the lights out of Saki, who threw a naked leg kick without returning his defense to a good position. It's 2 in a row. It's beating Jim Miller and now submitting Michael Chiesa. Pettis said that he was too focused on his wrestling game, that he went back on focusing on his submission game. I don't know if I'm comfortable with saying Showtime is back, but Anthony Pettis is looking better now than he has in quite a while. Be interesting to see. Ranked at number 12 in the lightweight division, where he goes from here. Dan Hooker fought earlier in the night. Not a big name, but scored a big knockout. Has been screaming for a big-time opponent. I'm just saying they fought on the same night. Maybe it happens. Mike Perry, Paul Felder. I don't know how they didn't get a bonus for fight of the night. It was an absolute war. It was a split decision. Early on, it looked like the speed and the variety of strikes that Paul Felder was throwing would be too much for Mike Perry, but Perry with just the more devastating shots. The headbutt early on busted open Felder, but it still broke skin. You still saw blood, and Mike Perry's a wild man who just got that much more offensive when he saw the blood. Big, heavy shots, and the fact that Felder couldn't be as offensive with his power and his right hand after breaking it with a spinning back fist in the first round. Amazing that Felder, with the broken arm, the gash in the head, eating a giant left hook, getting busted open on the right side of his head, looked like there may have been a skull fracture because of the way there was swelling in his forehead. Went all 3 rounds with Mike Perry, kept it close. I thought it was fight of the night. I was impressed with both individuals. And it's kind of crazy to see them standing there fighting each other. That Felder looked to be the bigger fighter in the octagon at UFC 226 when Perry is the natural welterweight, or the guy that at least is naturally in that division. That's where he signed up to be. Again, weight cutting. Do we really need it? Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou will definitely lock down the award for the worst fight of 2018 with the co-main event performance at UFC 226. Definitely setting a record for the fewest strikes ever landed in a 3-round heavyweight fight in the UFC. matching, I think, the record for the lowest amount of strikes just ever for a 3-round UFC fight. And Ngannou paralyzed with fear in remembrance of how he got his ass whooped against Stipe Miocic. Derek Lewis paralyzed by a back injury that we've heard him retire once before because of this injury. Could it be a possibility again? Francis Ngannou has trained really hard. I'm sure about that. Now it looks like the people that have said he needs a sports psychologist could be correct. He laid a goose egg. It is stock down on both fighters. Not a main event, not even a co-main event at this point. Both should look forward to being on the main card of a fight night because you cannot have that kind of performance in this temperature of the UFC, what they're trying to do, how they make their money. A really bad performance from both fighters in a really big spotlight. But Roundtree's giant knockout, Pettis Chiesa was exciting. Perry Felder was incredible. That saved it, not making the whole card a mockery. I said this was the worst fight in recent memory. People threw at me, and we can remember it, the worst fight of 2017. Yes, Woodley Wonder Boy 2. We can throw out the worst fight of 2016. Kimbo versus Dada. Yes, those all happened. Ngannou Lewis, I think, has the award wrapped up for worst UFC or major MMA fight of the year. I hope we don't have another contender in that category. The main event, Stipe Miocic came out looking very well, landing his combinations, hitting Daniel Cormier. As we know, Cormier can take a shot. He can walk through a lot. He was able to get into the clinch. He was able to get Cormier to engage in that clinch. We know that Cormier is famous for his uppercuts. Miocic tried to block them in a manner that left him open for the overhand. The right overhand cracking the Clevelander in his jaw. Down goes Miocic. Daniel Cormier, the new UFC heavyweight champion. The light heavyweight champion and heavyweight champion. The champ. We've had a few of those. Daniel Cormier enters the same category as Conor McGregor, the first UFC fighter to actively hold 2 UFC title belts. I'd almost like to put an asterisk near McGregor's, and I'm not a Cormier fan or cheerleader, but he deserves this distinction by himself. Daniel Cormier is the first person to hold 2 UFC title belts at the same time because he defended that light heavyweight title against Vulcan, against Gustafsson, against Anthony Johnson. We know what we saw, but the record books say what they do because of John Jones's problems with USADA. John Jones doesn't have that belt right now. Daniel Cormier had his successful title defenses, something that Conor McGregor has never done, and now he won a second title. I feel it's our first champ. Now, with that win, Cormier, McGregor, they're in that same room. That also includes BJ Penn, Georges St. Pierre, and Randy Couture. It's people that have won UFC titles in 2 weight classes. It's a very special thing that the AKA team member Daniel Cormier, the UFC Tonight analyst, accomplished. Now also, we have to say it, this puts Daniel Cormier in the GOAT discussion, the greatest of all time discussion. In that room, you have Anderson Silva, GSP, Fedor Emelianenko, John Jones, Demetrius Johnson, DC. People may not like it. You can look back as easily as John Jones handed Daniel Cormier his one loss. The loss that is on his record came from John Jones. But Daniel Cormier, with the lack of John Jones in the sport, has excelled and has become this 2-division champion. Officially, with that no contest, you got a 6-fight win streak for DC. A guy that's undefeated at heavyweight. Talking about wins over, and you also got to remember, he's beat Dan Henderson. He's beat Roy Nelson, Frank Mir. You got Josh Barnett. You got Bigfoot Silva on there. Been in some pretty big fights, Daniel Cormier. He's in that GOAT conversation. Do I believe that it's as impressive what he's done as the way Demetrius Johnson has just ran through title defenses, holding the record there, of the way that GSP reigned over the welterweight division, what Fedor did in Pride. And if you don't like steroids and you're taking John Jones out, I don't know how you're keeping Fedor in, because we don't know what was going on in Pride. You look at Anderson Silva, who I still would call the GOAT and the closest to challenging Mighty Mouse because of doing things that we've never seen before. The way he beat Forrest Griffin, the way he beat Vitor Belfort, the first one to do that front kick, pulling out the last minute submission of Chael Sonnen. In his era, Anderson Silva, I still believe the GOAT, but Daniel Cormier, with his resume, has put himself into that room, into that conversation, if you want to go to that fictitious, imaginary conversation. John Jones, with the steroid accusations, with the personal troubles, has taken enough hits that it allows Cormier to get into the conversation, and it's not a slam dunk to just say John Jones, he's undefeated, look at the way he dominated all of these legends. It makes everyone else's case that much stronger because of his indiscretions, and it's allowed Cormier into this conversation. What you gotta admit is Daniel Cormier, it's impressive in an age of weight cutting and everything, that he really just should be a heavyweight. This fight, he even felt stronger being heavier. Instead of getting down to 230, 235, 240, where he used to fight at heavyweight, he went all the way and blew up to 250 because he felt he had his knockout power. 5'11", 250 pounds, 39 years old, the heavyweight and light heavyweight champion of the world. That's what you think about all the weight cutters. All the 6'2" lightweights. All the 6 foot featherweights. There's a 5'11" heavyweight champion of the world. It's something pretty special in this era. Daniel Cormier, where does he go from here? Oh, the UFC had that one ready. Brock Lesnar was in the house before the main event with Joe Rogan's mic on. You had Brock Lesnar go up, say hello to everybody at the table, and say, hey, Joe, I'd love to do your podcast. Daniel Cormier is given the microphone immediately after winning the title and essentially calls out Brock Lesnar. They go to meet in the octagon. We're all looking for a stare down. Brock Lesnar, it's kind of a jerk. This guy that spit at Frank Mir, salivated all over the camera. He's, F'd you to people, kind of done a rodeo move in the octagon. Talked about shoving a horseshoe up somebody's ass. He shoves Daniel Cormier right away. Daniel Cormier's 5'4" boxing coach tried to shove Brock Lesnar. Yeah, the UFC has hit desperation. It reeked of desperation. The pro wrestling move, the pro wrestling kind of announcement that Brock Lesnar, my sources are saying, a week ago, has re-entered the USADA pool. 6 months of suspension will be up. And Brock Lesnar, Daniel Cormier, appears to be the next super fight that the UFC is working on. Because, Conor McGregor's camp and his head coach, John Kavanagh, have said that they are in discussion with the UFC about a possible return for Conor to the octagon. Dana White says they are not talking about a fight right now. Brock Lesnar, Daniel Cormier is the payday, and we know that the UFC is all about that payday. And they turned WWE to make it into a spectacle, to get those social media trends going, to get us talking. We're here talking about it, but I talk about MMA, so obviously I'm going to talk about it. Coming off of a win. Oh, wait. It's a no contest because of his USADA suspension. Yes, Brock Lesnar did look good, on the juice against Mark Hunt. Rebounding from 2 consecutive losses. That was 2 years ago. The gonna be 41 here in 3 days. Brock Lesnar has now jumped the line. Shock look on Curtis Blades' face, a 5-fight win streak, and just got done destroying Alistair Overeem at UFC 225. Alexander Volkov actually weighed in for UFC 226 because should anything have happened to Miocic or Cormier, just with the International Fight Week jinx, the UFC had a backup plan. Alexander Volkov was ready to challenge for the world title, for the heavyweight title. 4-fight win streak in the UFC, a 4-0 start, I believe 6-0 overall. The former Bellator heavyweight champion Heck, you even got Taya Tuivasa on a 3-fight win streak. None of these guys will be in Daniel Cormier's future because as Cormier is looking towards retirement, the UFC is looking at using that and giving him some super fights here, which starts off with obviously now the ability to get Brock Lesnar into the octagon. Daniel Cormier knows that's 6 months away. To DC's credit, when talking to the media, when being on Chelsea on Ariel Helwani's show, post-fight show, when being on the Fox Sports 1 post-show, did say that his thought process would be possibly, because he knew Brock would be gone for a while, that option's down the road, defending his 205-pound title. I don't know if DC really is going to want to go and drop that 45 pounds again, going from 250 to trying to get down to 205. We've seen it's been horrendous. I don't see that as being the viable option, and it feels a lot more likely that the rumored bout for UFC 227 between Alexander Gustafsson and Volkan Oezdemir could become an interim title fight that would lead to that person being the champion. Also, because even though he has the 2 belts, I don't see the UFC saying, yeah, DC, we'll let you defend 205, and we're not scared at all of risking the heavyweight title fight, of risking the Brock Lesnar payday, because 1 million pay-per-view buys is what they're desperate for. It's why you do business with Brock Lesnar. It's why they're desperate for this. It's why you pull that stunt. And for the people that wonder if Conor McGregor throwing a dolly through a bus full of fighters was a UFC planned stunt. No. Having 2 guys meet with a bunch of cameras in front of each other in an octagon, that's a planned stunt. A dolly through a bus in an area that nobody's watching is Conor McGregor being a freaking out-of-control maniac. Saturday night was a disgusting form of promotion that the UFC engaged in, that WME engaged in. Brock Lesnar's going to make a bunch of money. Hopefully Daniel Cormier makes a lot of money. Hopefully the UFC doesn't waste the Alexander Volkov and Curtis Blades win streaks to make them fight each other. Because you don't know, what if Brock Lesnar becomes the heavyweight champion? Is he going to fight one of these young studs? This could be the turning point. This point where a guy that's lost his last 2 legitimate fights, popped for doping in his most recent fight, jumps the line because of his popularity. It wasn't like the CM Punk signing and him being on pay-per-view twice wasn't bad enough. But is this another turning point in the UFC going downhill? We're allowing Brock Lesnar to jump the line because we all know you're desperate for a payday. It's kind of just what we saw and what happened at UFC 226. But again, congratulations to Daniel Cormier for making history. The action never stops. So now we move on to is that the Contender Series is back. Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. You got Max Mustaki versus Jalen Turner kicking it off. Jordan Espinosa, where you can hear our interview with Jordan at Cage Minds MMA show on YouTube. He's taking on Riley Dutro, the Hawaiian. Look for a finish as both men will come out very aggressive in this one. Ricky's Palacios meets Toby Mishi in the featherweight division. The co-main event, we had talked to Bevan Lewis. He has, let's say, less than respect for Alton Cunningham's knockout abilities, even though he's finished all of his fights by TKO. And then the feature fight, undefeated Joey Gomez taking on Kevin Aguilar, the LFA featherweight champion, jumping up to lightweight on short notice. Aguilar, though, has really put together his hands, has tight grappling. Can't wait to see what Gomez brings into this matchup. Obviously, I've seen a lot of Gomez, Lewis, and Espinosa. Expect big things from this event on Tuesday night. No Pro Fighters League on Thursday, so you can chill out on that. But One Championship has an event also coming up. Need to talk more about them. I'm doing what I can to try to schedule an interview to try to get a hold of somebody at One so I can learn more about their non-weight cutting procedures, getting the guys to fight at their walk-around weights. I'm so intrigued by it. We're going to try to get that interview for you guys. But you want to watch some free fights because that's what we all love, is the best value for our buck. And what's a better value than free? And if you're a fight fan, you want to watch fights. So you download the One Super app. And you can watch One Championship, all their events, to play back for free. And I'm talking about, they already give their prelims away for free if you can catch it on Twitter or Facebook. And then you watch the main card for this event, 7 fights, where they'll have kickboxing, Muay Thai, they'll do Sanchai fights, they'll do MMA fights. One has even announced that they are going to get into promoting boxing. Combat sports right now at their finest. One Championship doing across the world, but a dark horse to really make an impact globally in just the combat sports world. Talking about MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, One Championship. You have the ability. Check out their event. They have a Muay Thai fight in the Super Series at featherweight. Former Lion Fights superstar Joe Naniwat is going to be there. Can't wait for that one. Bellator vet Luis Santos taking on Tyler Maguire in the welterweight division. Malaysia versus Sweden in the main event as Ang Thon takes on Zabit Kazakhstan. One Championship. Check them out. There's a whole world of MMA, and they're offering it to us for free. I just can't get over the kind of opportunity, the kind of financial savings that is for us, where everyone else is, where can they charge us? How can they charge us? Which also leads me to a point I forgot to make a moment ago about the Ultimate Fighter Finale 27. My gosh, could it have taken any longer? I mean, I believe the prelims started at 4. That was just one of the longest events. The UFC normally with 12 fights will go 6 hours. I want to swear that we went almost 7 hours for 12 fights on the Ultimate Fighter finale. The pace of that show was awful. I sent my DVR 30 minutes early and still couldn't get the whole main event recorded. Inexplicable. Wow, the pace of that show. Don't have that problem with One Championship. Now, what else do we have to look forward to? We had 2 days of UFC last weekend, Friday and Saturday. Well, now this is Bellator weekend coming up. Yes, Bellator weekend. We start off Bellator weekend on Friday night in Oklahoma, Thackerville, the WinStar World Casino, and the women's featherweight title is on the line. Julia Budd, the Canadian, very good in the clinch, coming off of a lackluster title defense where she really didn't press the pace. I mean, you can be a counter striker. They have to come take your title. But Bud was not aggressive. It was an awkward fight. Makes now a title defense her second against Talita Nogueira. Nogueira, the jiu-jitsu expert. I'm sure she's going to bring the fight. She's heavy-handed. This one's going to be more exciting than our last time seeing Bud in that Bellator cage. Co-main event, Eduardo Dantes, Michael Mayday McDonald, the UFC former title challenger Yvette McDonald. He got a submission victory in his Bellator debut. I thought that would lead right away to a title fight. Darian Caldwell actually going to have a feature fight at 145 against Noad Lahed. I guess that's how depleted 135 is. I'm guessing that the Dantes McDonald winner will be the number 1 contender. You got to wonder which guy's going to expose themselves. They're both tight and technical. They both like to work behind the jab. The knees and leg kicks of Dantes are going to play a big role in this fight if he is willing to engage. McDonald's going to have to pressure and put Dantes moving on his back foot to be successful. The main card is also going to see Chris Honeycutt, an outstanding wrestler, in a middleweight matchup with Leo Lede. Lede lost to Phil Davis in his Bellator debut. The outstanding Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner had been the Legacy FC middleweight and light heavyweight champion, dropping down now to middleweight 185. This one's going to see 2 guys swinging big shots. It'll be interesting to see what happens if they go to the ground with the wrestling versus Jiu-Jitsu background. Ernest James, 1-0, big heavyweight. Going to be welcoming to America Valentin Ledovsky, 7-1 from Russia. 2 heavyweights swinging hard, kick off the card. Feature on your prelims, you got 2 good ones. Ukrainian Yuslav Amaz taking on Gerald Harris. Harris right back in there coming off of the loss. Moving back down to 170 though. I mean, it was a little hard taking on Lovato Jr., but he's right back in there. Emily Ducote versus Veta Ortega in the women's flyweight division. Ducote, that was 2 in a row. You lose to McFarland, got outstruck by Williams. Can she bounce back against a brawler like Ortega? Also in women's flyweight action, both undefeated and young in their careers. Deborah Kuzman versus Stephanie Geltmetcher. That one definitely want to check out. So you have Bellator in Oklahoma. A lot of women's contests featured on that one on Friday night. Then Saturday, we literally go around the world with Bellator to Rome, Italy, where it's going to be MMA and kickboxing. The main event, the rematch, Daniel Weichel challenging Patricio Pitbull Freire for that featherweight title. Weichel also close to finishing the fight the first time they met before eating a big counter and getting knocked out. Will it be more of the same? It's going to be a heavy striking contest. The big leg kicks and hooks from Pitbull, with Weichel trying to keep it tight, technical, pick you apart, and has very good jiu-jitsu. Co-main event in Rome. Of course, Bellator bringing Alessio Sakara moving back up to 205. He's going to take on Englishman Jamie Sloan, who I've never heard of before. Former Bellator welterweight champion Andrei Korshkov comes back, taking on Valiso Mezicek, a knockout artist who is over 50 fights into his mixed martial arts career. On the kickboxing side of the card, I honestly did not know where to find the whole card, but you do have a lightweight title bout with Giorgio Petrosian, who many would consider the finest kickboxer on the planet, and also Kevin Ross versus Gabriel Varga. That is going to be a tooth and nails war. So you have Bellator on Saturday, not to be left out of the fun. There is never a weekend off. You do have the UFC on FS1, UFC Fight Night in Boise, Idaho. First time down there, and the heavyweights are in the main event. The return of former heavyweight champion Junior Dos Santos. Dos Santos had a little dust up with USADA, but is proven not guilty. It's been over a year. It's been 14 months since we saw Dos Anjos get waxed in Texas by Miocic. It's been forever since we've seen Dos Santos getting his hand raised. I mean, the Ben Rothwell fight, it feels so long ago. But still ranked at number 7. How that happens, I don't know. But still ranked at number 7 in the UFC heavyweight rankings. Junior Dos Santos, he's welcoming Bulgarian Bulgoy Ivanov to the octagon. Hopefully you're a worldly MMA fan. Bulgoy has been in America for quite a while. A Bellator vet who I believe only lost one fight in the promotion. That was to Alexander Volkov, streaking heavyweight. Ivanov on a 5-fight win streak. The former WSOF champion, I believe, defended that title at least twice in his last fight over Alcin Alcantar. Was in the WSOF Pro Fighter League banner, but not a title fight. Ivanov, a Sambo master from Bulgaria, who has even beat the great Fedor in a Sambo competition. So we're talking about a well-versed fighter. But to be honest, this is a big step up in competition for the kind of guys that Dos Santos has faced. Not martial arts when we think about Sambo and skill, but for what we've seen Ivanov go against in MMA, this is going to be a big step up. The last time I had my eyes on him, I didn't see the Pro Fighter League event in DC, but I did see just destroy Sean Jordan very quickly. Ivanov versus Dos Santos should deliver as a main event. Now from here on out, the card gets a little kooky. You've got Sage Northcutt, Zach Ottawa on the co-main event. You have Dennis Bermudez versus Rick Glenn. Bermudez is actually on a 3-fight losing streak. Glenn is coming off a loss to Miles Jury, who's further down the card, welcoming back Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes, 2 years away. You saw the violation, some kind of cream he wasn't supposed to be using. Interesting to see if Money is back in top shape. Can Jury keep on rolling? Dennis Bermudez has his back against the wall. He has to beat Rick Glenn or find a new promotion to fight for, I believe. Rick Glenn is tough. He is long. He is in a fight to just get in your face. He can make it rough on you. Zach Ottawa, Sage Northcutt should not be the co-main event. That is part of the love obsession the UFC has for Sage. Sage on a 2-fight win streak, but is now committed to moving up to 170. Ottawa, coming off of a devastating knockout of Mike Kyle, has big power in his hands, big wrestling ability. You look for the movement of Northcutt to try to be his best asset. He's going to have to chop down the tree. He's not going to want to get in a clinch with a naturally big welterweight like Zach Ottawa. You also got in the welterweight division Randy Brown taking on Nico Price. Again, two amazing prospects. Brown looked great in busting up Mickey Gall. Price has tasted defeat. He also has a sweet submission game and an improving striking game. That one is there definitely on the main card because of rising prospects. Opening up the main card, but should probably, honestly, let's be honest, should be the co-main event. You've got Kat Zingano. She's coming off of a split decision loss to Caitlin Vieira. But she's on the main card, and she's taking on Marion Renault. Renault should be in title contention. You got Vieira, who is on a 5-fight win streak, I believe, inside the octagon. And Renault, who's won 3 out of 4. It really should be 4 straight, because if it wasn't for biased judging in Brazil, there's no way that was a draw against Bethe Correia. So really, you would have Marion Renault on a 4-fight win streak instead of 3 out of the last 4 and 2 in a row against Zingano, coming off of the split decision loss. Obviously, getting a prominent spot. That's where the UFC felt her skills were, or where the fight really played off was Zingano should have won. That fight should be up in the co-main event. The feature fight of the FS1 prelims is a battle between ranked bantamweights. Alejandro Perez getting a huge opportunity. He's been on a big win streak, 5-0-1 in his last 6. Going to be taking on Eddie Wineland. Wineland, his first fight back since losing to John Dodson. Wineland is Wineland. Hands down, bouncing around, looking to hit you with the big counter. Can Alejandro mix up hitting every level and mixing in his takedowns to get the finish? No reason this one should not be on the main card. That is a fight between 2 ranked bantamweights, a fight between 2 ranked featherweights. We're talking about Darren Elkins, a 6-fight win streak, but he's a grinder, only a 50% finishing rate, a 6-fight win streak in the featherweight division, ranked in the top 15. No clue why you don't have Elkins Volkanovski much higher. Volkanovski 17-0, actually himself 4-0 in the 17-1. 4-0 in the UFC, a 14-fight win streak. We're talking about a guy with a 59% knockout rate and a 77% finishing rate. The Australian puts on the pressure, swings big. Those 2 fights should be a lot higher up on the card. Not sure what the UFC is doing with some of this matchmaking or placement of the cards. I would put Bermuda's Glen, honestly, down a lot further, and I know they love what they're doing with Ottawa versus Sage, but just let me get this out of my system. The card should be Dos Santos Volkanovski with Zingano Renault in the co-main event. You should have Elkins Volkanovski, the 3rd fight up there. You could keep Price versus Brown, keep Sage Northcutt, I guess, versus Ottawa, and put Alejandro Perez, Eddie Wineland up on the main card, bring Jury and Mendez down to the feature prelim to give the guys that are ranked right now a little bit more respect. Just strange seeing the Wineland Perez and the Elkins Volkanovski fights on the prelims when you got so many guys that are ranked below them up on the main card or ranked lower than them in their divisions. But again, Sage Northcutt is Dana White's pet, so they're going to put him where they're going to put him. But it's an all-around solid card. You also got Liz Carmouche taking on and welcoming Jennifer Maia to the Octagon. Maia, the Invicta FC flyweight champion. She's on a 6-fight win streak. You got Carmouche, who had actually coming off of a split decision loss to Alexis Davis after having won 2 in a row. Look for the Thai style versus grinding style. Carmouche is going to want to cut down space. Maia's going to want to hit combinations. Got to point out also on the Fight Pass prelims, Mark De La Rosa, great submissions. He's going to be taking on Elias Garcia. Garcia only 4-0, but coming off of a 90-second knockout of Adam Antolin. It was on Dana White's Looking for a Fight that you can see on YouTube. Didn't catch it myself. Knocked out Antolin, a tough alum who had come off a split decision victory on the Tuesday Night Contender Series. You wax a Contender Series vet, you get a big opportunity. Elias Garcia versus Mark De La Rosa. Not to mention, kicking off the night, rebooked in the women's strawweight division. You're going to look to keep it standing and use your boxing if you're Jody Escobar, taking on Jessica Aguilar, the former WSOF strawweight champion, one of the top grapplers that the 115ers have ever seen. That one rebooked because the New York Athletic Commission didn't like chapped lips. Let's hope that the Idaho Commission keeps this one going. The UFC Fight Night, it's UFC in Boise. Fight Night 133 this Saturday. Looking for a knockout in that main event. Ivana versus Dos Santos. The heavyweights keep on rolling. And again, it's just so interesting to see as the UFC turns. Brock Lesnar's back. Sage Northcutt's in a main event. And people with win streaks are on the prelims. Especially people that are on win streaks and ranked. It's a business out there, and that's what the UFC is trying to do, is make money. This has been Caged Minds Uncensored. I've talked a lot about fights this week. Thanks for listening.